Good afternoon to most of you. Good morning to those of you that are out on the West Coast and it's still morning time there. Welcome to today's webinar, which is going to be discussing the new features that are available in Dynamics GP 2013 for payroll. And we're also going to be talking about some new integrity data features that are also available in Dynamics GP 2013 R2. We're going to go for about 45 minutes today. We're going to cover a lot of information, and we're even going to have some polls along the way to gather some information from you as we go through the webinar. We're going to begin with our agenda, which is just a few topics on the agenda here, but we're going to spend a fair amount of time on these. Just a quick intro to who Integrity Data is. If you're not familiar with us, we'll be happy to introduce ourselves to you. We're going to talk about what's new in payroll for Dynamics GP 2013. There's a few primary features there that we really want to show you that we think are really exciting. Also, we're going to talk about what's new from integrity data in Dynamics GP 2013 R2 within our own product lines. Once we get through those two topics, we're going to talk about some additional resources and some additional links and webinars and additional information that we're also going to make available to you after the webinar today, but we want to make sure that we show you those during our presentation. Just as an introduction, my name is Dan Doolin. I've been with Integrity Data for 14 and a half years. I've been working with Dynamics GP ever since then, or throughout that entire time period. Happy to present this webinar to you today. I hope that you find it useful. And we're going to start with just a quick poll here for you. So sort of a pre-test, think of it as a pre-test in the educational series that we're doing here. So I'm going to publish this out to you. Just a quick question about if your organization has upgraded to Dynamics GP 2013 yet, or if you're going to in the near future. I'm sorry, GP 2013 R2. So we'll just gather some of that information just helps us understand where our customers and partners are at this time and how important these features might be to them. So just take a minute and answer that question. It's an easy one. We'll start with the true and false question. The questions later might get a little bit more difficult, but I think you'll do fine. Okay, we'll go ahead and close that poll. Give you a couple more seconds if you want to click on that real quick. Okay. So just real quick, a little bit about integrity data. We've been a Microsoft Dynamics GP partner since 1996. We've been providing enhancement solutions to Dynamics GP customers since the year 2000. If you're familiar with this at all, you know that a lot of that's been around payroll and payroll and human resources. We've been providing products. We've also provided development services as well as some consulting and training services along the way as well. We're a Microsoft Dynamics Development Center, which simply means that we do develop some of the functionality directly for Microsoft, whether it's in payroll or other areas of Dynamics GP that you're using. And we're the original authors of Advanced Payroll, Advanced Human Resources, PTO Manager, and Benefit Self-Service. That's kind of the GP 2010 lingo. If you're just new to Dynamics GP and using Dynamics GP 2013, those products are known as the HR Payroll Extended Pack. And we'll be talking a little bit more about those later on, specifically Benefit Self-Service, as we go through the webinar. Okay. Let's talk about Dynamics GP 2013 R2 key payroll feature adds. One feature add that's available across, or I guess in several areas of Dynamics GP, is the ability to do the document attachment. There's the new time card entry feature, which is part of the business portal replacement cycle that Microsoft is going through, and we're going to talk about that in its big picture sense, we're going to spend most of our time talking about that today. Delivering self-service through the web client. So the shift that's going to be happening, or that is happening, as Business Portal is being phased out, new technology is being phased in to deliver those features through web client access. Talk a little bit about setting up the limited user to be able to access that information. And to me, sort of the big capability or the big takeaway from this particular webinar is just the future impacts of that. So we're going to talk about configuring Dynamics GP for the time card, configuring it for just an average employee to log in and see some of that information, which is predominantly just time card information right now. But what does that mean going forward? And what does that mean as we go through this transformation of those capabilities being on Business Portal to those capabilities now being in the web client, starting with GP 2013 R2 and really getting pretty serious about that in the GP 2015 release later this year. Within that conversation, we're also going to talk about workflow version 2, or V2 workflow as Microsoft's calling it, that is released in GP 2013 R2. There's another webinar in this series that we conducted, I believe it was last week, which talked extensively about workflow. Talked about workflow in GP 10 and GP 2010, moving to the V2 workflow, which Microsoft has announced, and we're going to show you a little bit of that today. But we went through that fairly extensively in the other webinar. And also our Ulink workflow product was discussed in that webinar as well. So there you can see some additional information for a detailed webinar that Terry Healy did on time card setup. There's the link. There's a security update blog post that I'm going to reference later. That's the link. So you can hurry up and copy that down real quick. Just kidding. That's the first joke of the webinar. We're going to send these out to you as part of the webinar follow-up, so I have those. So don't worry about trying to write all that stuff down. I want to make you aware that this is available. The workflow discussion webinar that I talked about is available on YouTube that Tom Franz from our team did last week. So that's all going to be referenced as we go through some of the things that we talk about today. So I want to make sure that you know that that information is going to be available, and we're going to send that to you via email as a follow-up to this webinar, so you'll have all that information plus some other stuff that I'm going to show you as well. So let's go ahead and I'm not big on PowerPoints. I like to get in and show you the good stuff. So that's kind of what we're going to show related to 2013 R2. Think about the big picture. Big picture is this shift from Business Portal to delivering self-service to the web client. So as I was thinking about, gee, what can we do that's educational around 2013 R2, as I started playing with the R2 release and started seeing some of the things in there, those are things that I wanted to learn more about. So I thought this would be important information to share. I just had to go ahead and learn it so I could show it to you, and then we're going to present this to you today. So let me switch over to my demonstration environment, which we have, obviously, Dynamics GP 2013 R2. And the first thing that I want to start with is this document attach capability from a payroll perspective. As you know, this document attach capability exists in several areas of the Dynamics GP 2013 R2 release, but I want to show you this information specifically from the payroll perspective. So I'm logged in as a system administrator, power user in this environment. So we're going to log into the employee. I'm going to choose Adam Barr as my employee. And you'll notice that in addition to the classic note box there, we now have this attachment capability. And it's yellow, so there is an attachment present. So I can look at this attachment. I've got one highlighted here. I can preview it. It's just a simple PDF form, okay, which is something that this employee charged at a particular vendor. Maybe not employee specific or payroll specific, but it's an attachment. Now, if we want to attach another document to this, the process for doing so is simply click the attach button, and then we'll scroll down to Adam Barr's photo that we have here. We're going to attach that. Very easy to do. If I want to preview this, you can see Adam Barr's fantastic photo. What a handsome guy he is. And some of you will get that joke on the webinar. So very quickly you can attach that information. Previously you had to use use the notes capability, go through the OLE container, not stored in the SQL database, hard to access, kind of clunky, good 1997 software functionality there. This is now being able to attach directly to the record, stored in the SQL database. I was picking around at some of the SQL tables. When I think about this and the document capability from a payroll perspective, we're going to see things in here such as maybe an I-9 document or some kind of an authorization form, benefit enrollment forms that might be scanned in, any information like that, copy of a birth certificate, some of that information. Also, as I think about that and what could be done with that, I think about our U-Link workflow product that gives you the ability to drive a notification or an approval off of any data change in the SQL database. Since this document and this information related to the document stored in the SQL database, we'd be able to initiate a notification off of that. So as I think about this feature and how to apply it to payroll, those are some of my thoughts on that. I'm sure a lot of you have some great ideas as well. But again, you can see it's very easy to attach that document. A couple things that I did notice about this particular capability is that when you do delete one of these documents, it doesn't really get rid of it. It just moves it over to the deleted folder. So it doesn't really permanently delete. I've seen some posts related to that. The other thing that I'm not sure about on this window, and I've asked our team internally, is what these two checkboxes are for. So I haven't been able to figure it out. So if somebody knows, I'm always open to learning something as well. So feel free to shoot me an email and let me know what those are used for, because I'm curious. That's the document attach capability in 2013 R2. Very nice little tool. I'm sure payroll folks are always looking for ways to attach information to those employee records. That's a great way to do it. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the time card capability and this transition from Business Portal to using Web Client as a self-service platform. Let's go over to the Human Resources and Payroll area page in Dynamics GP. And within our very long list of setup items here, one thing that I first noticed when I installed the R2 update is that these pieces of information related to time cards, or these windows related to time cards, are now available in Tools, Setup, Payroll, and Dynamics GP. If you're familiar with Business Portal at all, and the time card capability that exists on Business Portal, these are the functions that you use to configure that time card. Those are now available in Dexterity-based windows and Dynamics GP client that we can now set up right here. So we're going to go through these relatively quickly, just as a quick review. Just setting up pay schedules, and this is if you're familiar with the Business Portal capability, it's all very similar. The windows just function a little bit differently. If you're not familiar with that capability, I'm going to go through it really quickly, as I mentioned. But all I've done here is I've set up the pay schedules. So I put in the dates, created the pay periods, it puts all of those out here. That's what employees will use as they enter their time card in those specific periods. Now, obviously, you can set up multiple schedules and assign those to multiple employees. So you might have some employees that are bi-weekly. You might have some employees that are weekly. And you can certainly configure those schedules. Now, what you do is you define the schedule, and then you assign that to specific locations or departments or positions, or at the most granular level, specific employees. So you configure the schedule and then assign it to the groups or individuals that would need to enter their time according to that pay schedule. Okay. The next thing to do is, and you really don't have to do these in a specific order, but you can go ahead and set up the time card restrictions. And a restriction is really what can the employee change as they're entering their time card. So on this very creatively named standard restriction, employees are going to set their max hours per day. They're not going to enter start-stop times, so they're just going to enter a number of hours, but they can change department, position, shift, and they can add notes as they enter their time card. So employees will be able to update that information. And again, this specific restriction code is assigned to these employees in all the locations, specific departments, positions, or even down to the employee level. So again, you can have multiple restrictions dictating how certain employees should enter time, going through the time entry capability. Okay, some restrictions to set up. Okay, I think I just did restrictions. I want to do assignments. Okay. The assignment code is really what codes employees can enter as they're entering their time card. So if I'm an hourly employee, I might be able to enter time for pay codes, hourly, PTO, or sick, overtime, volunteer time, depending on how you want to deploy that. So the assignment is really to the employee level, what are specific valid values that an employee can enter on their time card. So what you do, this one works a little bit differently. You set up the assignment code, and then at the employee level, you set that employee, or you assign that employee to the assignment code. Hope that makes sense. So for example, if I'm a part-time employee, at the employee level, you would go in over here on the far right, on the time card assignment. That's where you would say, okay, I'm employee Adam Barr. These are the valid values according to this assignment code that are assigned to me for me to update or enter on my time card. So that part's a little bit tricky. The nice part is you can set a default. So if it's standard for everyone that's entering their time card, you can use a default checkbox there, and it will apply to everyone that's entering their time. Okay, again, the last step for employees to enter their time is to set up the batches. So once the time is entered and approved, then it's going to come over to this payroll batch in Dynamics GP Payroll. So I creatively again named that online time card entry. As the prefix, it'll automatically add a suffix to that, a numeric suffix, as time and batches get added. And again, this prefix is assigned to employees in specific departments, position, or class. So if you had one group of employees in a specific location, you want to keep that into a separate batch. Employees in a separate, different location, their time all comes over in a different batch. All depends on how you're organizing your time, how you want to review it, and how you want it to come into payroll for payroll processing. And just like with the business portal time entry, the time on behalf capability exists. I haven't configured this, but that would let the time on behalf capability let someone other than the employee enter their time. So if you have an administrative person in that location that is responsible for timesheets, that administrative person could log on even through the web client and enter the time for those employees, and the employees themselves wouldn't have to do that. Okay, so again, mirroring what is currently available in the business portal, now available in Dynamics GP. Okay, so that's the time card setup, what has traditionally been done in Business Portal, now brought into Dynamics GP. The next part of this, which was really intriguing to me that I wanted to figure out and was curious about, was, okay, that's fair enough, that's nice. What is the process for making this available for just your standard average Joe employee to go to a web client? What are they going to see? How do you configure access so that an employee can just see through a limited user information about themselves, see their time card or other information? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the security process for doing that and setting up an individual employee, because there's some things that are new here that are important steps that you need to go through to configure this, but it doesn't take much. So let's go over to the administration page. Again, I'm logged in as a system administrator. So I'm going to log in. I'm going to first show you a user here, and I've got a user called ABAR, which is Adam Barr. I assigned the class, which I really didn't need to do just because I set up the security individually. You could do that to save time in the future. Status is active. User type is limited, which is important. If just quick discussion on the licensing, there's a full Dynamics GP user, which gives you access to all the information and got to use the security to really control what that user can see. A limited user is really going to be inquiry access and some reports. And obviously limited users are concurrent users, just like the full users are, and they're much less expensive than a full user, obviously. What I am anticipating, or what I'd like to see down the road, is a self-service user. Because certainly if we're talking about time entry, we're going to have multiple users going in at the same time. We've provided that feedback to Microsoft. Feel free to communicate that feedback to Microsoft as well as you're working on this and needing that self-service capability. I just think it's probably the right thing to do, just given what those self-service users are going to be doing, and the cost of doing that. So, right now we're set to limited user, which works great, and is going to give us all the capabilities that we need to enter the time card and even do some other fun things that you'll see. Got username and password information here. So just setting up that user, limited user, and now we're going to get into setting up the security for this user. Okay, so again, go into user security. Got our user ABAR. The company is Fabricam. And to make this easier, I'm just going to display the roles that he's assigned to. So if you're not familiar with the security model, you assign a user to roles, and then there's tasks assigned within those roles. So it's very granular, very easy to set up, and very easy to replicate as you add new users. So what Microsoft has done is they've supplied this ESS, can't spell it, ESS employee role. A little note about that that I discovered yesterday is that if you upgrade your environment from GP 2013 Service Pack 1, Service Pack 2 to the R2 release, these new roles that you need will not be there. And so there's a blog post out there, which is that security update blog post that we'll send out that provides you with a script to run against your system database that puts these roles in there. It makes setting this up much easier to do. I'd set it up from scratch, and it ran into some issues, and then found the blog post and talked to some Microsoft folks about it. So these roles exist. If we drill into this role, what you'll see is that for the employee, there is this employee time off task that's also been created. I've also added a couple of other tasks for some other things that I want this employee to be able to do. If we drill down into the task, and I select the right options here, Windows, and then Payroll Tasks, what you'll see is that the task that this employee can access is a time card entry to their limited user and their time card history. If I turn off the Display Selected Items checkbox, it's going to show me all the tasks related to payroll. So you might deploy some of these out either in back office, through traditional client, or through web client. But if you look at the ones that have the little icon next to them, that denotes that window is available to limited users only. So again, whether you're deploying a limited user capability to somebody who has the client version installed on their desktop, or if they're going through web client, then that's what they could access through web client. So Microsoft's done a really nice job on the security capabilities and incorporating that with the different user types so that you know what somebody can see or not see if they're a limited user. Okay, so what we've done so far, just to review, is that we've set up the security model for this specific user. We've set up the time card information for this user. Or I'm sorry, for the whole company. We've assigned it so this employee will be able to see this. One other thing about this user, one big question is, okay, so you've got this user. If this user logs into the web client in a self-service type of task, how does this user only see their information? So certainly you don't want just somebody logging in and being able to see every other employee's information. So let me talk about that real quick. It's a very nice feature that Microsoft has added in 2013 R2. If I just go to Cards, Payroll Employee, I pull up our favorite employee, Adam Barr. Okay, standard employee card, go to additional information, a new field on this window, the GP user ID associated with this employee is Adam Barr. So previously in the business portal, you had to assign the employee role to the business portal user, and then you had to say that that employee was assigned to this employee code. A couple steps there. This is very easy to set up, very easy to configure. So when the employee terminates and they become inactive and you remove the user and those things, that employee would no longer have access. It's a lot more centralized from a setup perspective than having to set up the employee in Dynamics GP, set up the stuff in Business Portal. So my personal opinion is Microsoft didn't do a great job. Actually, they did a pretty bad job of communicating the shift in technology. The message coming out of Convergence was, hey, the Business Portal is going away. And so a lot of us were, a lot of customers and partners were wondering, well, that capability is just gone. What's going to happen in the future? We had the questions come up in some payroll sessions that I did, well, this is going away. What's happening? A better way to phrase that would have been, Microsoft is transitioning these features that we've traditionally been able to do in Business Portal for the last 11 years to new technology and new capabilities that is much more robust and gives us a lot more capabilities going down the road, is a much better message and a much more accurate delivery of the message. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think some of the things I've heard from Microsoft on some of their webcasts is going into the 2015 release, they're going to be almost back to what was available in the Business Portal. So pay stubs and pay information, address changes, things like that. That's their plan. So it really is going to be a nice shift. Even just talking about the security and the users and things like that, that being more centralized in Dynamics GP is going to be a really big benefit going forward. Okay, something else that I want to mention as part of this configuration that we're going to look at it from the web client point of view is the workflow capability. So as I mentioned, we have another webinar on workflow that we've done, so I don't want to take too much time on this. I'm going to actually fly through this pretty quickly. But if I go back to the administration tab and come down to company and just talk about the new workflow capabilities, in Dynamics GP, there's a workflow calendar that's used for timing out of things and so on. They're setting up the email messaging, which is very easy to use. I'm going to skip those and jump right to workflow maintenance just to provide some clarity on this. And again, we have that other webinar that we did that really sort of lays out some of the differences. But you can see what there is here is 4 workflow types. There's 2 around purchasing, there's 1 around project, and then 1 for payroll. And these are workflow types that are available for you to configure the workflow. And this is done right here on these particular windows. So here's a time card approval workflow that I honestly don't have fully configured, but I do want to show you the windows and show you some of the capabilities. So, when you create a step, go to the new step button. You can drill down on that step itself. See the information, actions always required for this step, what to do, completion policy, all of those things that were traditionally done in a SharePoint environment for this workflow are now brought into Dynamics GP, so it can be used right here in Dynamics GP configured. Seems like it's pretty easy to do. I know some of the struggles with some of the previous workflow versions where it was hard to get configured, not very flexible. Again, they have the 4 workflow types, so they kind of went from 10 to 4. The tool is much better. From a broad Dynamics GP scope, it's a little bit limited right now. I would shamelessly plug our U-Link workflow product that Integrity Data offers. If you're needing some additional capabilities on top of those 4 types, then that's certainly a tool that we offer with 50 or 60 types of workflows that are available with that product. But Microsoft, kudos to them. They've done a fantastic job of developing this new tool. I think it will continue to improve. They'll continue to add workflow types for us to all utilize and implement. So it's a great tool, and I think you're going to find this much easier to use. All right, so that's that was a very quick iteration of the workflow, but I want to jump into the self-service environment and show you some of the capabilities there. So again, what we've done so far is that we've configured the time card. We've set up an employee so that they can access the time card through giving them a user ID, assigning that to the employee, setting up their security rules, and now they're going to log into the web client. So here we go into the web client. I'm going to log in as Adam Barr, just through the browser here, enter the password. Okay, it's going to log me in. Okay. So what you have here are the classic reminders showing up. Okay, and then the self-service view for the specific employee. So we've got the time management tool that's on the screen, the procurement tool that's on the screen. That's configured in the home page configuration. Then also quick links, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But from the time card perspective, what Adam can do is you can see that he's got one that's saved here. He can enter the time card. He can recall a submitted time card. You can see if any's been rejected or approved. Vacation balance, sick balance coming, of course, directly from Dynamics GP. But he can go into the save time card. And this is where we'll see all the settings that we configured taking effect. This is a very nice view of the time card once it appears. Very easy for the employee to use. Okay, I'm going to stretch this out so we can see more of it. Okay, so he's got some information at the bottom of the screen, some general information here. He can double click on the time card. Okay, it's going to open it up. You can see that he's started to enter the time on the hourly time code for this week. Okay, if he wants to go into transaction details, this would be some of those restrictions that we applied. So Adam could change his department, change the position he's working in, even go so far as changing the state, for employees that move around, shift code, add notes, whatever. And this is all based on that configuration that we did. So Adam can go ahead and make changes to the time card. Let's say Friday is always a good day for PTO. Put in the PTO time. And of course, if we had the workflow configured, we'd submit that. It would go to the manager for approval. The manager would be notified via email to update that information. The email is much more robust, and the notification capability is much more robust than what we saw in Business Portal. So again, another benefit to the shift in technology, just much more capabilities, many more capabilities for communicating, and more than just, hey, there's a task assigned to you that you need to take action on. So that's how the employee would enter time. The time card on behalf would be somewhat similar, just with multiple employees. So again, if you're using, if you just need a simple web time entry, this is a great tool. You can deploy this to a subset of employees. If you just wanted to deploy this to your salaried employees or in the office employees and have your other time clock system out in the warehouse or in the manufacturing center, you could still certainly do that as well. Okay. Let me go back to the PowerPoint for just a second, and then we're going to come back to the self-service screen, because I want to talk a little bit about what this means going sort of down the road. If we go back to the PowerPoint slides, okay, let's go to the next one. We start talking about some integrity data features that we're releasing in GP 2013 R2. Before I do that, I want to go to another poll question about self-service. Okay. So there it is on your screen. If you currently have any type of self-service deployed in your organization, what are you using? Are you using the Business Portal, Human Resources Self-Service Suite from Microsoft, GreenShade's Employee Portal, something else? You're not really deploying anything, but you're thinking about it, or what in the world is self-service? So we'll take just a minute to let you answer that question, and then we'll continue on. Okay, we'll leave the poll open for just about 5 or 10 more seconds. All right, thanks for submitting those answers. That's just interesting information. As we look at what integrity data is providing for our 2013 key product features, and we have a list of 10 or 11 products. These are some of the key features, and we're just going to, for the sake of time, we're just going to go through a few of these. Our Paycheck What If Calculator is a tool that traditionally payroll folks have been able to use to do either gross-up calculations, specific to employees, or those what-if scenarios. You know what I'm referring to when the employee calls and says, well, what if I sign up for the 401k? What does that do to my net pay? What if I sign up for insurance and it's pre-tax? What does that really do to my net pay? What if I change my tax withholding structure and allowances? What is that going to do to my net pay? And you're either honestly blowing the employee off and telling me you can't do that because it's going to take you 15 or 20 minutes, or you're doing it and spending the 15 or 20 minutes to do it. So we've had this tool that's been available for a couple of years now where you could quickly do that in Dynamics GP. What we've done using this web client technology and self-service capabilities, we're now deploying that out through the web client so that employees can do those things themselves. I'm going to go back and show you that. I'm going to do that, then we're going to come back and talk about some of these other features. So I'm just going to switch over again real quick. So again, in self-service, I'm logged in just as Adam Barr. The only reason I come to this page is to enter my time, maybe do a couple other things. Down the road, it's going to change as Microsoft releases things. But I now have that modeling question that I want to answer myself. To me, this is indicative of what the future holds for deploying the self-service capability through the web client. What we've done is we've taken a window that is just a Dynamics GP window that's been available for 2 years, and we've made some, I would say, relatively minor changes to it to make it available for web client, for a single employee to look at. From my perspective, I look at that and I start thinking about all the other things that are available, especially in human resources, that we might want to deploy out to employees or managers through the web client that are specific to them. So, a manager view of information about their employees, certifications, license, skills, training history. I think about employee accessing leave time information. We've already seen a little bit of that. Think about performance management. Think about any of those things that you've thought, well, golly, I wish an employee could see this themselves, or golly, I wish an employee could update this information themselves. That's all becoming much more feasible now. Benefit enrollment is going to be deployed through web client. As we saw on the About Integrity Data, that's one of our OEM products through Microsoft. We're currently in the process of rewriting that So it will be deployed through web client. It's going to be a great tool. We've seen some of the initial development of that. It's going to be fantastic. And so think about those things. To me, that's the key to this webinar related to the web client stuff and self-service, is just what the future holds and what's going to be capable to deploy through a browser to an employee, to a manager, and really to anybody else in your organization through that limited user capability as Microsoft has developed the structure for us to do that. And we're already starting to develop some of those things as integrity data. For example, the what-if calculation. So let me just open that window. I'm just going to click on it here. You can see, of course, it opens up to Adam Barr's specific information and knows who he is. So what Adam can do is he can come in and he can say, well, what if I change my tax exemptions from 1 to 3 and I sign up for medical insurance? Okay. And what Adam can do is go ahead and run this calculation, and it's going to show him exactly what his new net pay would be based on this information. Change that to the screen. So Adam Barr can see that his new net pay, stretch this out here so you can see it, is now $1,270.65. So ever since we started talking about this product, there's always been the question, can employees do that themselves? And the answer is yes. Now with GP 2013 R2, they can do that, perform those calculations themselves. Some of the other changes that we made to this product for our 2013 R2 release, if we would look at it in the back office, would be the mass gross up capability, which a single employee can't do. So those will error out if you try to do that or provide you a message that you can't do that. But additional tax information is now editable for the employee as they're performing these calculations. Okay, so if I switch over back to Dynamics GP, I'm going to skip over that mass gross up capability, and I'm going to talk about a couple other quick updates that we made to some more integrity data products before we go back to the slides and wrap up our webinar today. But on the employee email suite, we got some feedback related to this product, and I want to go to the home page. But the employee email suite is a tool that we provide that enables Dynamics GP users to email earning statements and W-2s out to employees. So when you're emailing those, one of the pieces of feedback that we got was when you highlight a payroll batch to email, the only way that you could tell that it was highlighted was the information was appearing. So we just added a quick visual indicator, not a big feature add, but a quick visual indicator based on feedback that shows which batch is highlighted, especially if you're archiving these and going back and reprinting pay stubs for employees and re-emailing those out. So this is just a quick feature that we added to our email earning statements and employee email suite product. Another capability that we added was to the employee mid-pay period pay rate changes product. So if I go into employee or cards payroll, mid-pay period pay rates, if you're not familiar with this product, what it does is it enforces the effective date of a pay rate change. So if I look at Adam Barr here, if we were to change his pay rate with an effective date that happens to be in the middle of a pay period, what Dynamics GP does is it just takes the latest pay rate on the pay code for the employee and applies that. So if they had 80 hours times the latest rate, or the current rate. What this product does is it will keep track of the previous rate and pay the employee half the pay period at the old rate, half the pay period at the new rate. The change that we made here was that we added the current rate and the effective date to the window. Previously we had the old rate and the effective date, and it was confusing because the new rate wasn't on the window. So we added that feature to make it just a little bit more intuitive as far as what's going on with the employee pay rate. So again, not a big thing, but based on user feedback was something that we wanted to do to make the product better. Another change that we made was for the employee split capabilities. So the employee accounts and splits products that we have lets you configure splits for an employee. So just a real quick example here. Adam Barr, and splitting his time across multiple departments and positions. So cost allocation. There's a lot of complex things that you can do with this product. These are some of the straightforward examples, splitting to specific account numbers and things like that. But what we found was that customers really wanted a report where they could see a list of all the splits that were configured for all the employees. So now when this window is blank, I can hit my print button, and it's going to print that report that shows all the splits that are set up for all the employees that have that. We made some other changes to this in the 2013 release, which was uncoupling the split definition with the employee. So now if you have multiple employees with the same split configuration, you can set up that split and then assign it to an employee versus just configuring it at the employee level. So we're always adding features to the products based on feedback and testimonials that we receive from our customers. So always let us know what you'd like to see going forward. Okay, so those are some quick features that we've added to our products. Again, the big thing that we wanted to talk about today was just that self-service capability using the web client and getting into some of those capabilities and how you actually deploy that. So I want to make sure we talked about that. Just a quick rundown of the integrity data, human resources, and payroll enhancements to Dynamics GP. Of course, already R2 compliant. We released R2 updates. I think we were within a week of the Microsoft release, so we're typically right on top of those changes. Additional information for the integrity data products, you can go to integrity-data.com, all kinds of information there. We've got our knowledge base, which gets into a lot of the details, things that we change in products, feature ads, if there's any bugs that we fix, those are all outlined in the knowledge base, which is on our website. Of course, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Some upcoming webinars, understanding the different methods for keeping track of employee leave in Dynamics GP that Keith Schmidt from our team is going to do. So he's going to talk about payroll accruals, PTO manager, HR attendance, and integrity data comprehensive leave manager, and all of those differences that go into those. Then on July 29th, I'm doing another webinar on ways to save mucho time in Dynamics GP payroll processing. Don't have that one really laid out yet, so I can't really give you any insight as far as what we're going to talk about. If you have some ideas, certainly open to those. So I got a couple of weeks before that one, so I'm sure it'll be, hopefully it'll be valuable and interesting. If there's things that you want to see, feel free to email those to me. I'm going to put up my contact information here in just a minute. Before I stop on this slide, I do want to go into another poll question, just asking you for some feedback on the value of this session for you. We'll leave this open for just a minute. So how informative was this for you? Was it great use of your time, somewhat useful? And be honest, if you were not paying attention and working on other stuff the rest of the time, just let us know. It's okay. We won't hold it against you. While you're doing that, I just want to take the time to say thanks, and we appreciate you taking the time to join this webinar. I really do hope it was useful. If not, send us some ideas. We're willing to learn and willing to make changes so that we can provide you with good information. We'll close the poll in just a few minutes, and I'll go back to my contact information so you can see that. And again, thanks for joining today. If there's any questions, you can submit those on the question and answer component in your GoToMeeting. As I did mention, in the follow-up emails that you'll receive as part of this, you'll receive a lot of those links, or all of those links that we had in the slide decks, so you'll be able to see some of those webinars that were recorded and the blog post for the security update. Let's go ahead and go back to the slide deck. I'll close the poll here real quick. Okay, so there's my contact information. A few of our team members, make sure I pointed out who my point out my mugshot there. A little bit of a resemblance between myself and the photo of Adam Barr that we had a little bit earlier. Anyway, feel free to contact me with any questions. You can always connect to us on our website as well. We're usually logged in so you can chat with us. Email address, phone number. If it's questions about R2, questions about integrity data products, or really anything payroll related, if I don't know the answer, I'll go try to search it out for you as best I can. Again, thank you for taking the time today. We really appreciate it. We will have this recording available in the next couple of days. So thank you again, and have a great afternoon.